Hello and welcome to Family Dynamics. It's Katherine.
And Liz.
And Ed. And John.
So something recently has been going on with you, Liz, in your car life, which I can't wait to hear the full story. But it did make me think we should also talk about our history with cars. We've had a lot of car trouble in this family.
I think it's in our DNA.
Yeah, I think from Dad, we have just inherited bad car karma. Maybe. Bad car karma, yeah.
I mean, the same shitty Chevrolet. And I'm sorry. I mean, for those of you who have a Chevrolet, you probably don't have that experience.
I think we got a lemon in particular.
He was known for getting lemons, though, wasn't he?
No, I don't know about that.
Wasn't his Volvo a lemon or not the right model? Didn't he get like the Mustang that was off by a year from the classic?
Well, I don't know if that counts as a lemon, but yes, he had bad car luck for sure.
Okay. And I think he usually typically bought what was considered like the base model. So
yeah,
no frills. But my father-in-law also had a shitty Chevy that literally turned normally, for those of you who don't know, an LA to Mammoth drive, which is about 6.5, 7 hours to almost 24 hours.
Oh my God.
So I never bought a Chevy, but just recently I also took a road trip up to Tahoe. Now, it's because we were meeting our friends up there, Lainey and David, for her birthday to celebrate. And we volunteered to drive versus flying so we could bring more stuff, some bottles of wine, then to also have a car up there to drive around.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I even got my car, my Ford Explorer, and I am like a Ford girl. I thought about this after the fact. I've had Fords from Bronco to an Explorer. I think we're going back like 25 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty Ford loyal, and I got it all tuned up, all washed up, which Mark thought was a total waste because we're going to be driving in the snow, like the wash. But everything else, like you felt, okay, the car is ready to go for this long drive. Now, I used to have a theory, and I don't know, with COVID, we all lost some time and, wasn't driving my car a lot. So somehow my theory of like, you really shouldn't keep a car more than 10 years, like our father, like my father-in-law, because something happens, shit just starts to go down.
It starts to fall apart, kind of.
Right. So my car is 9.5 years old. I don't think
it's right on the edge.
I don't think I was realizing I was supposed to have a 10th birthday, and it is over 100,000 miles, and I didn't realize that either. So we take off in the morning, all packed up, ready to go. Mark is driving. He usually takes the driving responsibility, but I try, unlike our mother, who would fall asleep on every road trip, I try to stay awake and alert, engage Mark in conversations.
Yeah, that's very supportive.
Do you?
Sometimes. If there's other people in the car, no.
Oh, that's right. Because if I'm co-pilot, you're back in the nest asleep.
For sure. Third row back seat. I make it a full nest. I'm out for the count until we wake up at McDonald's.
Also, yeah, if it's a 9 a.m., 10 a.m.?
Oh, forget it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Continue. Yes, you're engaging the driver.
Excellent co-pilot. Yeah. No, if
it's just you.
Yeah, if it's anybody else is in the car, I have created a third row back nest, basically still in my pajamas. Although you can't really spread your legs out completely, so I always wake up like, with like some sort of pain or my legs are cramping up. But if it's just Mark and I try to stay awake because I kind of feel like, well, that's a little selfish of me to be like, next to he's driving. Though, knock on wood, thank God, he does not have the tendency to fall asleep behind the wheel. So we're driving, we're talking, we've hit the road early.
How long does it take to get to Tahoe? I have no idea.
I think it's about an 8 or 9 hour drive.
Okay, that's substantial.
And
that would be, without issue and without extreme traffic at some point.
Right. I would say to be safe, it could be almost 10 hours just because if you stop, if you get gas, as John said,
so
hit
it's
traffic.
a trek for sure.
Yes, it definitely is. So, well, no, John, because we were going to leave at 7. We had planned about an 8.5 hour drive. That was our plan because we were not taking the long way there and we were not going to stop for like a long lunch.
That's true because normally you prefer the scenic route and there's many planned stops and there's just, the fun of the road.
Shot.
You're going to see someplace and just stop there.
What?
Yeah,
Shots? What are you talking about?
It's such a delicious sandwich bakery shop that you stop at.
Oh, that's the name of the shop.
Yes,
yeah.
Shots.
I thought you were saying to do shots. I was like, what? That makes no sense.
Driving.
Shots Deli.
Okay, got it.
Bread.
Yeah, they're famous for like their monkey pull bread and like their Pullman bread and like. So you go in and get a sandwich, but the line's always really long. You're definitely in for an hour plus lunch. So Mark's like, "We're not doing shots, lady." I'm like, "Okay, fine, but fine," because it's just the two of us. So we're making our way. It's doing good. We stopped at Starbucks. We're really having a good time. And Mark goes, gosh, I go, gosh, you're so wiggly on the road. Like, and he goes, that's not me. I don't know. This feels like the steering wheel's like a little loose. I'm like,
That's
okay.
not good.
Yeah.
There's more give than I want it to be giving.
So he goes, I want to stop at, he goes, you just had an oil change on it. I go, yeah. And he goes, well, let me pull into like, look up a Jiffy Lube on the side of the, off the freeway as soon as we get off. I want to just get more power steering fluid put in it. Okay.
Good idea. Yeah.
So we get in line and the guy pops our hood and he goes, oh, you got, and he explained the power steering component issue placement. I don't know, this Ford Explorer, my last 3 repairs in the last 3 months, everything's been like, oh. Well, normally a water pump is very easy to replace because it's just this, and this. But your Ford model, they only did this on the 2013 and 2014. So now we have to remove the entire engine to get access to it. You're like, wait, what? So the part's $300, but the labor's $2,500. You're like, what? I'm going to die. So he goes, he's kind of explaining the same scenario. And I'm like, so there's no place you can just put power steering fuel, oil, fluid, whatever. No. He goes, but just go over that mechanic right over there and then he can actually look at it. So he pulled up to that mechanic and the car's still just doing what it's doing. And that guy goes, well, I'm like an hour and a half out from when you can look at that. We're like, forget that. Bye. So we get back on the road and we're on the road for like another 2 hours. And Mark, it hasn't gotten any progressively worse. It's just annoying. So Mark goes, well, I'm hungry, but we shouldn't eat a lot because we're only about 3 hours away, which is basically before we had to go up the 50. So Sacramento. And he goes, let's just get like a taco from Taco Bell, like something light. Because when we arrive, they're going to have charcuterie cheese. Like we're planning. We're so excited. All right. So we pull in the Taco Bell, drive through, all good. And I'm like, oh, Mark, you want to stop? He's like, yeah, I mean, do I always have to like be driving? Can I just stop and eat my taco in the parking lot? So we stop and we're sitting there eating our little taco. And okay, both go to the bathroom. We're ready to go. And he turns on the car and it's like the car steering wheel will not budge.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's not good.
It's like almost locked.
Oh.
And Mark goes, I can't even move this car. Oh my God. Now, it's been a while. I've only used AAA. It's funny. It says members for 60 years because somehow or another, I'm like on Dad's or we're on
we
Hal.
were grandfathered in or whatever that is. Like we were on his membership. And so mine's the same thing. Yeah.
So when you call AAA, that thank you for being a member for 62 years. Well, thank you.
Older than you are.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I was pre-conception a member. I was like, okay. So I've only called AAA for batteries and tires these last couple of years. So we don't even think at first to call AAA. We're like, what do we do? Where do we go? How do we handle this? Where do we tow this to? Literally about a minute or two past before Mark goes, oh, well, why don't we call AAA? I'm like, yes. This was a weekday. This is a Thursday. So basically, they guide you to a AAA mechanic. They're going to then connect you with the tow company. The tow company is like, we're going to be over 2 hours to get you your car. We're like, we're going to be stuck in a frigging Taco Bell parking lot?
Was it at least a Taco Bell Pizza Hut combo?
No, no. Solo Taco Bello. So I said, well, let's start arranging the rental. And that AAA, once again, so helpful, go, we'll connect you with Hertz, one of our partners, you get the discount. Oh, okay, great. Call them. Oh, you need an SUV, We're going up to the mountain, so we'd like all-wheel drive. No problem. So we're like, okay, great. So after we realized it's going to be 2+ hours for AAA, I said, Mark, why don't you take an Uber to Hertz and get this going and come back so the overlap is less. So literally as Mark takes off, I see it's like there's commotion. If I'm here, it was like a block away. The direction Mark is heading. Clearly a huge accident just happened. I thought, oh my God, did Mark just get involved in a huge accident? And so I call him and he basically said, no, it happened right in front of him. Like he literally happened right in front of him.
What?
Yeah, some car teamboat another car. It was a huge thing. So now that freeway, I can see it's shut down and Mark just got past it. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know how you're going to get back, but get the car and we'll work it out.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just sitting there in the car waiting for him. About 20 minutes passes and he calls me from Hertz and he goes, so, the SUV we rented? Yeah, he goes, well, I don't know where that is because in their system here, they only have available a Toyota Camry and a Tesla.
Oh, okay.
And I said, well, okay, obviously we'll take the Tesla, but I've driven in them. I've never driven one. And I also said, well, what size is it? Aren't some of them really small? Like, I mean, what if we had 2 kids? We rented an SUV.
But don't you have a bunch of stuff with you too?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, okay. So Mark's like, I don't know what option it is. And I'll try to figure out how to drive this thing. Because if you've been in a Tesla, it's the car nothing else but a computer screen. That's it.
Wow.
Like that is
Okay.
it. So
Go to YouTube and look up how to start your car.
Yeah.
yeah, pretty much. So Mark starts making his way back to me. He gets back with the Tesla before AAA has even come.
Right.
So we load everything into the car, and it required us
Into the frunk.
That is a good point. The guys at Hertz did not give Mark any insight on this car. So I did not know there was a front trunk, I guess, until after we returned the car.
Oh, what? Oh, no.
So they didn't even tell us that. So, we are putting down the 2 back passenger seats, and we have all of our stuff. It is full to like our backs.
Oh, my God.
So we did not know there was a front.
How did you bring that much stuff? It was for the.
I had gifts. I had wine. I had a ski bag of clothes in case we like kind of did something along those type of activities. And snow clothes are big and heavy. So then
I guess
I brought a lot of stuff because I had my big SUV. So what did I care, right? It's like, oh.
Did you bring any of Mark's specific pans and knives?
No, because Lainey does have all that up at her house. So we're sitting there finally, and at this point we've called the place it's going to be towed to and given them a heads up, and they said, oh, they won't be able to look at it till tomorrow. Okay, fine. And we've told them we're leaving out of town, so just look at it and we'll check back in with you. So Mark is back from Hertz, and we're waiting for AAA. They show up about 2.5 hours later.
Wow.
And we're watching literally tow truck after tow truck go past us on this main drag in Sacramento.
Oh, no.
So we call AAA to say, what is the deal? Well, that's one of our licensed partners, but you could have just gone with another company and billed us back. I'm sorry,
come
what?
on.
Oh, I mean, just the lack of information from certain people was insane. So we get the car all queued up to go buy, my beautiful little Black Beauty Ford Explorer. Bye. Okay, see you later. I know where you're going, but bye.
Bye, Liz. Enjoy the mountain.
Yeah, I mean, this was your pride and joy horse that you love.
It was.
Black Beauty. Are you for real?
Yes, I felt bad for
I was
it.
going with Mr. Narwhal because it's a
I know.
SUV
Have
size.
time on the mountain.
Say hi to Lainey for me.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm not going to have fun with Lainey.
Oh man, I love that chick. She always sits in the back seat and rolls the windows down.
Yeah.
She's so much fun. Bye.
Bye. So we get on the road. It's all going fine. We're like, wow, that's all that's in here is just a big computer screen. So trying to figure that out. Mark's like, put the address in where we're going. I mean, that took like 10 minutes. Like, just let me get my glasses out. Like, it is just ridiculous. So once you start going up the mountain, and Mark goes, they really don't want you to ever we have cords instead of chains, but they don't want you putting even those on a Tesla. The guy goes like, well, you can't put anything but like the Tesla version of these, and they're not in the car, so you don't have them. So good luck.
What? Oh, God.
We're like, well,
Because this was during the huge storm,
the
right?
blizzard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we're like, oh, yeah, this is a little nerve wracking. Hopefully we don't have to deal with chains. So we're going up the mountain, and it starts to snow and snow hard. We cannot figure out how to do the windshield wipers.
Oh, no.
We don't even know where they are in here. We can't figure it out. We called 2 of our friends that own Teslas. They don't pick up their phone. So I'm trying to look online. I have no reception where we are. So I'm like, oh. So I call my friend Corey, and she's like, oh, okay. This is what you do. She's like, you idiots. Like, it's just right here. You do this. We're like, okay, great. And we could not. It's either self-modulating. I don't know what. It either was going super fast or super slow. We could just not get it to just be a regular windshield wiper. It was just like, oh, my Lord. So, it's snowing, and Mark's just like, he's like gripping the steering wheel because he just doesn't know without the chains, this is going to be like go haywire at one point. So we actually make it to Laney's. We've been on the road for 12 hours at that point.
Oh, my God. Mm-hmm.
Make it there. It's like, whatever dinner reservations you made, girl, I don't want to do them. Let's just honker in, have some drinks and some dinner, which we did. So fun. So the rest of the trip, and because it was her birthday weekend, and also Mark is a very much work the problem guy. He's not going to get all worked up about it. It's like, we just have to make a bunch of phone calls every morning when we wake up. So one of the first phone calls was to the, mechanic. All right, you have our car. Let us know what your assessment is. Okay, great. Basically, we wait about 2 hours before we even leave for the day. And the mechanic gets back to us and he says, it's this steering wheel component issue, and it's about a $3,500 repair.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
You need to hit the casinos.
Well, out of the gate, I'm like, oh God, this is why you don't keep a car this long. And I am like, All right. He goes, but I don't have the part. Okay.
perfect.
He goes, I won't have the part until Tuesday. This is on Friday.
Oh,
Like out of
geez.
Doc Hollywood, actually.
Yeah. And he goes, and it will take a couple days to repair it. So you might not have your car back till Thursday or Friday. I go, I'm not living in Sacramento for a week. I mean, like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, because this repair place was in Sacramento.
Yeah, which is 2.5 hours away from where we are in Tahoe. So it's just
But
like
it has a convenient Taco Bell nearby, right?
very convenient. Well, it's actually, I'm very lucky where this happened because it could have happened anywhere along these stretches that there's nothing.
For miles, right?
Nothing. So we were lucky it happened in Sacramento at a location that was very central to everything, including a rental car and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that you could actually kind of use that as a base to work from.
So then, of course, Mark starts all these theories like, why don't we just CarMax it from there or Carvana it and we buy a new car in Sacramento? I was like, I don't have the bandwidth for this. And so then now Lainey's woken up and she's engaged. And when you like activate her, it's like she tries to solve the problem. And sometimes you're like, wait, you're going so fast. I don't know if making it better or worse. But she's like, and I mentioned, maybe I just want to have it towed back to LA and just deal with it there. So she calls some tow company and their estimate was $6,000.
$6,000?
I'm like, you could push it back to LA for cheaper. I was like, I don't even understand the math, the hourly rate on that. So I was like, okay, so that's not going to work. But in the meantime, I had gone online and put all the information in a national transit type of tow company. Like, okay, let's just put it in there. And then Lainey goes, well, we need to get rid of this Tesla because we need an SUV. I'm sure there's a Hertz up here. We can trade it in. No, I don't know if it's COVID. I don't know if it's always been this way. Really, Hertz is only at airports.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean,
there
okay.
are very few standalones that are fully operational with tons of options. Where they are fully operational with amazing options is at airport terminals.
I mean, that does make sense.
Well, I didn't know this. I mean, I'm sure I've seen one or two Hertz, but they're not like Enterprise. They're not like some of the other large ones. They're like in your neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So there's none up in Tahoe. None.
Maybe that's why they'll pick you up and take you to the airport.
Pretty much. So, and they had actually said to us, oh, you need to return the car on Sunday because we thought we'd have our car back. And they said, well, you'll have to return at the airport. We're like, oh, we'll deal with that later.
Do I have to? Like the guy with the SUV that we were supposed to have?
Yeah,
Like
no.
He had to do? No.
No,
okay.
no. But we have to stick to what the guidelines and expectations were.
They don't have to give you an SUV, but you have to stick to their guidelines. Yes.
So we're like, okay. So I actually, we're just sitting there like, oh my God, this is fucking crazy. Like the repair is like going to be $3,500 and take a week, or we'll tow it back and it'll be $6,000. I'm like, I don't even want to keep this car at this point. I'm like, this is insane. So the company that I contacted online gets back and says, oh, it'll be about $500. I'm like, to tow it back to LA? You sure you have the zip codes right? Because this other company is going to charge me $6,000. That's a big difference. And I didn't say that. I just said, you sure you have the zip codes right? Yes, it'll be $500. Okay. Yes, let's set it up. So I call the mechanic. He's like, what? You don't want to do the repair? I'm like, dude, it's $3,500. You're not my mechanic. I mean, I'm assuming you're telling me the truth, but also I'm not staying up here for a week. And then Mark also said we could fly home with Lane, which I'm like, that'd mean leaving half our shit here because we can't fly home with all of it, and or take a commercial flight. And then one of us fly back up and get the car. I'm like, this is just take it back to LA. Like, this is too complicated. I just don't even want to think about this anymore this weekend. Just take it back. So now the car is, my little black beauty is going to be picked up. And the reason I call it Black Beauty is she is like all black interior, exterior. Okay. So she's going to be taken back to LA to our mechanic. Okay. So that's all in motion. Okay, great. Let's just forget about it for the weekend in some regards. Now I've got this Tesla and there's just snow, ice everywhere. But Lainey's son actually has a Tesla and she calls him and he says, oh, well, that's all wheel drive, that car. Because all Teslas are. Don't you guys know this? Is like, no, and neither did Hertz.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hertz said nothing to us. So we're like, oh, okay, now we feel pretty safe on these plowed streets driving around. Okay, so we're like, all right, so we drive it most of the weekend. Saturday night, when we were coming back from our dinner, it was a blizzard snowstorm insanity that at this point, David, who was not drinking, he drove us home, was like gripping the steering wheel so tight because he just felt like, the snow was like 2 feet deep. It was like insane. Mm-hmm. So at one point he says to Mark, like, open the garage door. I'm just going to like sail slowly into our garage. He was afraid of like accelerating, braking, anything. So Sunday morning we had made a plan like, okay, we'll follow you down the mountain because we got to return this car to the airport. we'll follow you guys down the mountain because you're getting picked up in an SUV with chains. Now, I don't know. None of us, are basic. Is it geometry? Because it's like the Tesla is not as wide as the SUV. So therefore, what tracks were we following in? I don't like the geniuses that were figuring this out. So we're all packed up, locked up the house. Everything's ready to go. It's like 9 a.m. or something. Like we are ready to go. Their SUV takes out of the driveway. We start to back the Tesla out, and it maybe gets halfway out of the driveway. No, halfway out of the garage, actually, and then just stops because the snow is so high. Can't, its profile is too low. And then it won't go forward or backwards. It's doing nothing. We're like, oh my God.
No.
So Lainey basically rolls down her window and says, like, you guys should just fly home with us. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this is too much to figure out right now. So I said, we're going to wait for the streets and the driveway to be plowed, whatever. And their driver had to get out and help me. So the driver and I pushed the car slowly back into the garage.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Ooh. Because someone said, well, why didn't you drive the car back in? I'm like, I never drove the Tesla. I was too afraid of like doing anything at that point, and all of our shit's in the car. So it's like so heavy pushing it back in. And we get the car back in. Laney and Davis gave us a garage clicker. They take off, and then we realize, well, we don't have the key back into the house, and they've locked the house from the garage.
Oh,
in between.
my God.
So
What?
I then have to call her and she's like, oh, well, there's a key, luckily in the lockbox, but we don't know the code, so she gives us the code. And then Mark goes around the house, because we really hadn't gone in and out the front door for a couple of days. It is probably like 5 feet of snow, like 4 feet of snow.
Oh, my God.
So I'm like, good luck, Mark. I go, put on your snow boots, like, to get there. So he's like wading through. He gets there. He does the lockbox combination. It doesn't work at first. Like, we're like, oh my God. And he finally gets the key. He gets in, comes around, lets me in. And we get back in the house and we look at each other like, well, now what? Because it's like Sunday. This is so like, are we stuck here for the day? We don't know. We feel like we're in limbo. So we call Hertz to be like, we're probably not returning the car today. Well, you got an international call center and they stick to that script. I mean, they were like, you have to return the car today. Finally, I said, come pick us the fuck up then. Okay. Like, if you can get up here and get the car, great.
You can have it.
You can have it. We can't get to you. You need to return the car today to the Sacramento International Airport. I don't know if it's international, but like, I was like,
Send a helicopter.
Yeah,
no
for
worries.
sure. Come get it. No problem. So Hertz was no help whatsoever. So at a certain point, we realized like we're not getting out of here today because it really did not stop snowing. And Lainey said they're not going to plow what is like their neighborhood. They'll plow the main streets, but they won't plow the neighborhoods until Monday. So we're like, all right, how do we get the TV to work? And there really was no food left in the house except for like leftovers that we sort of had scrounged and eggs and toast. So it was like, and ice cream. So we hunkered down till the next morning basically and had a good time. But, it was just sort of like, this is insane. But Mark woke up at 7:30 the next morning. He's like, they plowed the streets. I'm like, we're up. Like, I never even like really changed because I'm going to go and pack the car again. So I got my toiletry back out and that was it. So I'm like, I'm ready to go. Let's go. But we're still a little apprehensive about this Tesla, even though it's all-wheel drive. And then we are driving out and I'm going to put our destination in again. I'm like, what's this? I hit a button and it's a snow and slide button, which will help you in these matters. I'm like, literally no one told us shit about this car.
Oh my God.
So I activate that. And now we're going down the mountain slowly and we're making it. Mark's like, oh God, the chains, we're going to have to put on chains because there are signs everywhere. It says chains required to go down the mountain because it is really crazy conditions. So we pull over to this guy who's like in one of those big orange jumpsuits. And we said, oh, we got to put chains on our tires. He goes, you're in a Tesla. It's all-wheel drive. I go, okay. He's like, do you have snow and mud tires? S&M tires? Which I was like, sex and what do you got? And he goes, yeah, you guys are good to go. We're like, oh my God, the stress we had the entire weekend. And we were probably in a more advanced car than our SUV ever was going to be. So annoyed. And Mark's like, I cannot believe no one at Hertz knew anything about this car. So in the meantime, we're talking to Hertz, trying to get someone here or the Sacramento office to be like, hey, we're not going to return it. We're just going to drive it back to LA. halfway down the mountain, we get a hold of somebody and they're like, oh, hell no. You have to return that one. It needs to stay in the Sacramento field office. So you can come and rent another car and drive that back to LA.
Oh, God.
Which I guess because of the charging issues might have been a better call. But I was just like, oh my God, Hertz, goodbye. So then we go in and trade out for like a small little SUV and turn the Tesla in, and now have to drive all the way back to LA. And we returned the Tesla the next day, and that guy was actually pretty cool because he was like, oh, I knocked like some of the hours off because I can tell you just drove it from this location to this location, but it costs more to do that and leave it, not where you picked it up. So, and in the meantime, my car goes to our mechanic, find out it's a very complicated repair. It's been there over 2 weeks.
Whoa.
They finally go, this part, we cannot get it anywhere. So there is a used refurbished part that should work just as well. And at this point, I'm like, oh God, fine. So they do it. We pick it up last week. Haven't even had it a week. 2 days in, it was like, I don't even know if you'd say like the noise making like when you turn the steering wheel, and like you almost want to get the old school WD-40 fix and be like around your steering wheel because you're like something like, why is it so creaky? So I take a video of it because it was almost comical. It's like it was like a cat like complaining. It was so like a whiny cat. So I take a video of it. I'm like, and we start calling this mechanic like on Monday, like, is this normal? Is this gonna like loosen up? So he got a hold of him.
Did you forget your cat in here?
Yeah, pretty much what it sounded like. So we didn't hear back from the mechanic. He's like, okay, let me ask the other guy to see what it is. He didn't get back to us. I go out on Friday night by myself to 2 things I have to go to. One's all the way in West Hollywood, and the other one is like 20 miles away. So get to West Hollywood fine. The noise is bothering me, but I'm just dealing with it. The sacrifice.
Ignoring it.
And I like to drive my own car because my radio settings are more comfortable in it, right? It's a higher profile car than my husband's like lower sedan type of car. So I'm pretty close to home. And then the same light alert goes on. Check power steering, advanced track. So I'm like, and I'm afraid the steering's going to lock up again. So I'm like, I am not driving this car all the way out to my girlfriend's like quiet, private, gated community. Like it's far. And then I'm in our house like waiting for a 2-hour AAA tow and all this shit and like an Uber. I'm like, So I called Mark. I said, I'm going to come and swap the car out. I don't know if this is all just default. Like I don't know what's happening. So drop the car off. Swap it out. It's been in our driveway. We go this morning to like tailgate each other to take it to mechanic. I go, well, Mark, I'm just going to follow you on the surface streets. He goes, yeah, all good. And I'm in his car looking in my rear view mirror, waiting for him to pull out. And I'm like, And I see him get out of the car and he's like, shakes his head no. So I back up and I'm like, so what? He goes, yep, completely locked up again.
Oh, no.
So then we dealt with AAA again today.
Oh, yeah.
To come tow the car back to the mechanic. So I know nobody's had a fun time either buying or selling. Maybe selling, you've had a good time, but buying cars during COVID because I guess there's a shortage. It's just been very difficult. But I am now going to have to join that group of people because I am not going to be like our father. And we can talk about this now. We can transition from my horrendous story to our dad. Always had kind of bad luck with cars. And the last one he had before he passed away was this. What was it? It was a Chevrolet. Does anybody remember the make that it was?
Cavalier, wasn't it?
Cavalier. He got it brand new off the lot, but he kept it way past its expiration date. A couple little fender benders in it. And, it really started to have a lot of problems. I think some of the last couple of repairs had to exceed the value of the car.
It was definitely a classic 70s to 80s, this is the business model. My car's a little leaky. There is a spot on the driveway that's got kitty litter on it / motor oil on it. That is absolutely what I remember growing up.
Yeah.
Our driveway that's where the car leaks. I'm not sure that's supposed to leak.
Yeah, what's leaking? Brake fuel? What is leaking? Do we even know?
Just motor oil. That we always had some motor oil in the garage to take care of whichever car problem was happening.
Just top it up. Sometimes it just needs a little bit of motor oil to keep it going.
Because I think the only new car he ever, in my memory, was that Chevrolet. Everything else was always a used car, van, or station wagon. We might have had a new station wagon at one point.
I think that blue one with the wood paneling in the 70s, that was a new purchase.
That is the complete Griswold, station wagon. The back had, those 2 seats that, could fold flat to be a flat trunk or prop up, and you faced each other.
Yeah.
Which was absolutely my favorite place to be, in the back with Rosemary.
With no
you.
leg room.
Oh,
just
no
a
leg
weird
room,
little,
but we're talking. Like I said, we'd usually bring that mini piano back there too. I mean, like we just would make our whole...
You could have a whole concert back there.
John, it was my early nest. Like, for sure. That was like my favorite spot to be in, back there usually. And then sometimes Rosie and I would put the seats down and we'd be waving at people on long road trips on the side
of course,
on the other side of the road or freeway or highway. And there were times he bought really embarrassing cars.
Oh, definitely. He bought that big blue, I think it was an Impala, that had just like the long, huge back seat.
And
that
now
was
that's
just,
considered like a cool car.
His was not cool, though.
know.
There was nothing cool about it. It was not, yeah.
Well, it certainly wasn't the era of like retro cool cars. So I'm telling you, Impalas are like actually cool cars now, but it was not what you wanted to be picked up and dropped off in school in at all back then.
No.
The best one, and this is your story, is we had a very elderly woman that lived across the street,
Mrs. Steele.
Yeah. Who would make things for us and send it over. And Rosie and I had whipped up a theory in our heads that it was usually poison and she was a witch, which I don't know.
She was not.
I mean, because she would send over, Mom loved her chicken noodle soup, and there was the weirdest shaped noodles ever in there.
Well, didn't she do like chicken and dumplings, which was not something that we
Yes,
were
Mom was just talking about chicken and dumplings the other day. Mrs. Steele's chicken and dumplings. I think I'm going to do that now. We ended up baking those chickens, but
Yeah, it was just not something we were familiar with. Then she'd make sort of a Cool Whip cake.
Well, she made like a 1-layer round cake and then put Cool Whip on the top of it. That was like
It was so
It was
sweet
very
of her.
sweet. She was trying to like
She had the best
be friendly.
rose garden,
Yeah.
and she'd hire you for $5 to come over and dust her house or something. A nice. Now, as an adult, I realize what jerks Rosie and I were. Like, we were so freaked out. But she had a car. I think she passed away, and I think Dad bought it. So it was haunted too, I think.
I don't know. Gosh, I can't remember. I think she was still alive when we bought that car, but we had it after she had passed away. So, I mean, I'm not sure.
It was like a Nova, like a Chevy. It was huge. It was like another
a white,
big.
yeah, another big sedan. This one was white, and I do remember that it was like almost like the paint had like turned to dust on it, so it wasn't like actual paint. Like if you just ran your hand off, it was just covered in like white paint dust, which
And
probably was not good.
Her back window, like the ledge that was there, had a little Afghan on it with animal figures on it.
Oh my God, I don't remember.
Now,
that.
I think
Okay.
we were like, Dad, those have to be cleared
That's
off before
gotta
we
go.
drive that. So this was probably, I have to say, one of his worst looking cars he'd ever bought.
Oh yeah, it was pretty horrendous.
And it had to be on death's door. Like, why he even bought it? Like, I mean, that thing had sat in you could see it from across our street. It had sat in her driveway. Like, it was not a very operational car. Like,
No, but it was very much like a dad move. He was operating from like desperation a lot of times. So it was just like financially, what can I swing? I need a car now. Like,
you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Right? It's Mrs. Steele was 2 doors in, and the first house was a different Doug. We had 2 different Doug neighbors. But Doug had that Porsche in his driveway.
What?
That's the only thing I remember about that guy was, what is up with that car? It has been there forever. I want it. I'm 4. And now, 40 years later, I'm bringing it up on a podcast. Like, it is still in there. I'm like, oh, I want that Porsche.
Yeah, that was a good Porsche. I forgot about that. And then the next house over was a big
Mrs.
old
Steele.
crappy whiteout
Nova.
car. Flake off the whiteout. I think Rosie and I did take whiteout and tried to like touch it up.
oh, I'm sure that helped.
Oh, yeah,
Made it
Boz.
look a lot better.
Now you have a funny story about him taking you to school in that
Yeah.
car.
At that point, I must have been sophomore year of high school because he drove me to school that whole year because he was a teacher at the school. And that year I was at his school because the campus was split. So 9th grade, I was not in his same place. And then 10th grade, I was. So 10th grade, he's driving me to school. And also, he loved to do that thing where he would take a full cup of coffee into the car. So you're holding his coffee and like trying to like ride up and down so you don't spill it, like holding it up in the air and like bobbing and weaving it. You
And
know?
we're all used to whatever version you have of it now, your Starbucks or your insulated cup
Yeah,
with
some
a
kind of-
secure
yeah.
top on it. This is a coffee mug
a straight coffee mug.
straight from the kitchen cupboard, hot scalding coffee, like that horrible story in the McDonald's, that old lady. I mean, like you were trying not to get burned or get coffee on your outfit.
Just ridiculous, hilarious. Yeah, not a travel mug at all.
No, they
Definitely
didn't exist.
Just, no.
No.
So I'm holding his mug and like holding it up in the air, trying to keep it from spilling. And he loved to listen to news radio.
NPR.
No, not even NPR.
Oh, KBC.
AM, KBC.
Yeah.
Or
Ding, ding,
KNX
ding, ding, whatever.
1070.
And then you
Coming
get,
up next, 1 minute of traffic from the hour.
Exactly. Traffic
I
on the
apparently could
hours.
work in AM radio.
Oh my God. So
You really could have. That was actually shockingly accurate.
So he's driving us to school, and we're in that kind of back windy roads very close to our house. And I see someone from St. Mel, from our grade school.
Oh, yeah.
Which, that would have been like quite a sighting to be like, oh, look. And it was a popular girl. I mean, I would consider myself very not popular. And she was
You were a cheerleader there. So I would say you were middle ground.
Okay, well, my perception was that she was much more elevated than me. Like, I was like, ooh, this is a popular girl.
Right.
Her name was Susie. She was very cool.
Right.
Like, my memory of our status positions, I was like, she was elevated. So I see her coming around the corner, and I full on, try and get her attention and wave. And oh my God, hi! Like, I'm trying not to spill this coffee and waving and, huge smile out this car. And then I realized, oh my God, we're in this crazy old terrible car. Why did I call attention to myself? She never would have noticed, but of course she did totally see me, make full eye contact, and then a weird face, and then wave. And you're like, oh, that was a mistake. I wish I hadn't done that.
Oh God. And of course Dad was always just clueless about that stuff. I mean,
Oh yeah, he didn't. I mean, I don't know if he was clueless more than he was just like, well, this is the best we can do. So this is going to have to be okay.
Yeah, because I think that car did not even last a year.
No, it
and
was
they usually
short.
all just disappeared. It was like they were just gone, and they got almost like a blue version of it. And then that got in a car accident or
I'll give Dad at least Dan Levy level of parent in Clueless, the movie Clueless. He's the dad. I'll give our dad at least that level of cluelessness. Everywhere in Los Angeles is 20 minutes away. Yes, with no traffic, maybe. But I need to get someplace at 8 o'clock at night, Dad. Yeah.
No, so I don't know where it transitioned to the new car because our brother, we had one brother that went away to college, so him having a car really wasn't an issue. And at a certain point, we did seem to have 3 cars. It was we had the big van that when we all went somewhere, and then we had Mom had that little,
It was a brown Honda Civic.
which we called the poop pellet.
It looked exactly like a rapid poop pellet. And she drove it so aggressively with the 5 speed. It was so insane.
I mean, it was the equivalent of a person driving a Mini in England is Mom in that little car. It's probably only 4 speed.
So crazy. And then Dad usually had some sort of sedan rotating.
Yeah.
So when James came back to college, he took the van and he actually had a job at a camp driving kids. I mean, did we even have operational seatbelts in that?
Camp. It had wooden nickels.
It had wooden nickels.
It just a wood token that you
Wildwood
could use to
or
something. Yeah.
They didn't do big buses because he had what was almost like a cargo van, but with benches in it. Like I said, I can't even imagine every kid was in a seatbelt. That just seems insane. But that's how he drove it over that summer. Then
That's not the van that caught on fire, is it?
That's eventually, yes. I mean, I think both of them did eventually.
Yeah, I think that the first van that James used when he was working
that little short brown one.
Yeah. Chiefs Camp, I think it was.
There you go.
So inappropriately named now. You could it's probably changed its name.
No good. And they definitely leaned into the Native American.
I know, for all these white kids in the valley. Such a bad name.
The camp is in Central Valley, so that's obvious.
No.
Okay, anyway. So that van, the tan van, that's the one that James drove the year that he did the summer camp. And then later we had the blue van.
The blue and white
we had that tan
cargo
van for a long time. There was a lot of road trips, a lot of I'm in trouble or I've irritated someone, so I've been sent to the front and I'm sitting on the wool blanket. On
the hot hump.
On the engine hub.
Yeah. I think the blue van is the one that caught on fire, though. But
yes.
Yeah.
With Rosemary.
Also, the maintenance.
Oh, it was never a big.
We didn't understand it.
And what's bizarre is our brother William, he was very independent. So he saved up money and bought his own car. Mm-hmm. And even his own motorcycle at one point. And I remember coming out and watching him doing oil changes on his own car. Mm-hmm. and never being like, oh, a car needs that?
No,
Because I have
yeah.
to admit, that was the death of my rabbit too. Like I forgot. No one told me to put oil in it. So I'm like driving to a key or something with my friend like, woo! And all of a sudden it's just
airtight rabbit with the bubble that, that's why all the windows popped because it's airtight.
Oh,
I ran
gosh.
over a speed bump too fast.
I don't even know. Who even knows? I mean, these cars were also like all ready just to die as soon as we bought them. So
Wait, on the white rabbit, I think my favorite part is when your door handles were not functioning properly. What was the in point and exit point?
oh, the back seat window. I crawl in and out of it. Yeah. I gotta get where I gotta get. Oh, and then actually if it was good weather, I would just leave the sunroof open and crawl in and out of the sunroof.
Oh, my
I
God.
mean, as a parent, you're like, this is not operational.
Daisy Dukesing it. I don't know what's going on. with
I
that.
do have to say, for sure, my first car, I mean, like, oh, yeah.
Death trap.
It was, and that's what you think about, like, bad car karma, but also economically, our parents not being in a position to be like, no, you can't drive that car. That car is not safe. My first car, a Datsun 1600,
I fucking love that Datsun.
little roadster, which
Adorable.
Fiberglass
2-seater.
panel.
Really?
yeah, it was not in good shape when I got it,
No, it
but
was not.
it was cool and fun. And my friend Patrick helped me find it. Rest in peace, miss him.
Oh, that's right.
And it was a convertible, and the top did not go up.
But it was like rag top though, right? It wasn't like a hard top. It was actual like
It was
old fabric, not like even a leather cover.
No, it was leather.
Okay.
Or like, leather
What do you mean it
equivalent.
didn't go up?
The mechanism was like stuck or like, didn't.
It had been.
So what if
not
it rains?
So I would drive it in the rain with the top down.
No,
And just
what?
leave it parked at school. This was my sophomore year at Loyola Marymount, and I would just leave it parked. And at one point, there was grass growing in the back.
Stop it.
Absolutely.
No.
Because it was dirty and there was a lot of water. So it just like sprouted, I guess.
When you say that you're kind of hippie,
Oh my
when you say you're
God.
kind of hippie-ish,
What?
you don't really really explain. Yeah, I had a car with plants growing in it.
That was not on purpose, but I definitely drove
This
it
is insane.
with the top not up. But then William,
I mean, you would
Did help
never
me,
drive me
yeah.
anywhere in it, so that's why
That's
I
true.
have very little memories of it.
that's true. William did help me actually figure out. He like fixed the mechanism so I could get the top up, but then the latches wouldn't like latch in the front because that had two latches, so it would like attach to the windshield.
yeah.
And he helped me fix that. So at one point, it did actually close. Like you could put the top up.
Oh, no, sad. The grass probably died from the lack of sunshine at that point.
No, close the roof.
William helped me buy my first car, which was my little rabbit. But it was not a good thing. We had margaritas before we went to go look at it.
Oops.
And then William's like, I think it looks good. I mean, it was like $1,000. I mean, like, so what did you expect?
I know mine was 1,500. I remember.
Yeah, I think it had like 75,000 miles on it. It was like, okay, great. So it was just one problem after another. And that was definitely one where I took it in for repair and Dad's crazy mechanic who even came to his funeral. I mean, that's how close of a
Mike?
relationship. Yes, that's how close of a relationship he had with his mechanic. Called me and said, hey, Lise, because we'd just done another repair. No, someone had hit my car. And I did the $800 repair, the $1,000 repair on it, which I'm like, looking back, I'm like, that was literally the price of the car. But I really should have thought that through. I took it in for another repair, and he goes, no, this car is done. He's like,
geez.
no. He's like, I can't in good conscience repair, which is shocking because he repaired everything on Dad's car. Like he overspent in repairs, probably the value of the shitty Chevy.
Oh, for sure. Just to keep them going.
So he just said, I can't even repair this rabbit. Like in all good conscience, like it's not worth the $500 repair. I'm like, that was because I didn't put oil in it.
Yeah, well, that's one of the problems with cars. They do have a lifeblood, and it's not gasoline.
I heard him right here in this really loud, and I was like, what's that? It was like the car finally going, fuck you. I mean, you didn't put oil in me. I'm done. And it's like, we all should have learned because like Virginia at this point had killed like 3 cars that way.
Somewhere in the mix, I had a Volkswagen Scirocco.
Yeah.
Which,
Well, that got you started on Volkswagens.
then I had a cabriolet after that.
Convertible. You went back to
I know, which is
convertible.
funny because I don't really like being in the sun, so I don't know why I keep
It was
getting
shocking.
these convertibles.
I felt like that was you going back to high school because that was the most popular car. If you
Yeah.
got that in high school, you were the shit.
Yeah.
That's your car. Can't buy me love.
Yeah.
Like that's the car to have. So when you rolled up to it as an adult, I was like, who has high school issues? But I love it.
It was black with black leather interior.
Oh God!
It was
If
very
you
cool.
sat in it, we went somewhere together. which was not often at the time, but she had the top down. It was really hot in the black leather, and we're so pale. It was like, I felt like 2 ants underneath the magnifying glass. I was like, we are so hot. Like, this is too hot.
Why is it so bright out? It's just daylight bouncing off of us. Oh, okay.
Well, what I was going to say about the Scirocco, this was not my fault. So it was not an oil change related problem, but I bought the Scirocco and I bought it from some, whoever in wherever. You had to go to the
You'd see
look
it
in the
newspaper,
and then you go to the person and you're like, I guess this is good. Let's take it to the mechanic. And I swear to God, this was like her mechanic. So about a week later, after I bought this car for, only $1,500, which at the time was a lot of money, felt like a lot of money because that's all you have, and it had a transmission problem.
Oh,
And it was basically like another $1,500 to fix this transmission. And they for sure knew when they sold me this car that that's what was going on. And they had just like, no, go to our mechanic. And their mechanic, in air quotes, was like, no, it's great. You're fine. And so I called her. I'm like, yeah, this car that I bought from you a week ago, like, I don't know what I expected her to do. Be like, okay, never mind. I'll take it back and give you your money. No. She was like, oh, does it? Sorry.
That is why I was getting rid of it.
That's why I didn't want it, because it was a problem. So, yeah, Dad had to give me the money to fix it, which was kind of amazing that he even was able to do that, because I was like, oh, my God, I bought this car.
Well, this is a
disaster.
We're now in the era of where he was steadily working on a soap opera.
That's true.
It all changed. You guys have a story that he then took, I feel like it was one of the vans or something, down to donate to Mexico.
No.
Yeah, what was the story?
A trailer. It was the old trailer that we had that was the single one with the styrofoam bed / couch area in the back. We had upgraded.
Styrofoam?
Whatever. Not styrofoam. I don't mean styrofoam. I mean
foam mattress.
Foam mattress seat. It was
not a Casper, everybody.
Not a actual mattress, just the seat cushioning stuff. That's what you're using for a bed. Great. That OG one that we had, we donated to a family in Mexico. We drove down to Mexico at maybe 10 miles past the border and donated it because we had upgraded to a different one. I think for maybe 3 or 4 years, there was a different trailer, and then also not at the house. It was in storage. And then we had that for a couple years after he died.
Yeah, that's right. Because you can't park them on the street. There was a time when we were figuring out where it was going to go. It was parked up on our lawn. That was kind of cool because you're just like, oh, I'll go be in the trailer.
Can
our
you
neighbors
imagine
must
the
have been like, what
neighbors?
the hell?
Like, why do you have a trailer? A janky trailer on your lawn in front of the house. What is happening?
And I remember Mom, after Dad passed away, I think she donated the shitty Chevy to somebody. This place is just donate your car. And she was having car issues, so she decided to get a new car herself. And that was the beginning of our relationship with Ford, because she got a Ford Explorer 5-speed. She likes to drive stick. It was a stick shift. It was like, this is crazy, lady. But she was thinking at one point she wanted a Mazda Miata. And all of a sudden, because John was still very young, so she's driving John around everywhere. And there was sort of an intervention talk of Mom, because unfortunately our mom got in quite a few accidents growing up that were somewhat distracted driving, or just, a lot of kids in the car, or who knows, right? So we said, you absolutely cannot get a little sports car.
Yeah, that seems unsafe.
You need to get, since you're still driving John and even some of his friends around, you need a bigger car. And then so she was very excited about her Ford Explorer. And she had that for quite a few years.
And I think it has helped in general. And I think for a lot of people, it helps to be in an SUV and have kind of a better view of what's going on, be a little high profile.
I like that, yeah.
More than...
So if I have to go on the real car search, which now it looks like it's going to have to happen.
I know. I was just going to say, Eric is really almost done with my Prius. He's very...
You've had that a long time.
I've had this Prius a long time. It's got a big ding in the side, which he does not like.
How'd that happen?
I was excited to leave work early one day and didn't look, and it was like a weird pole that it had a concrete base around it that was bigger than the pole itself. So you look out and you see this pole and you think you've got clearance because you're like, oh, it's just this pole. No, it's out another 2 feet around this pole of concrete.
Yeah.
And I was not familiar enough with this parking lot to remember that. So I totally screech. I'm like, oops. Okay, well, whatever. So, but recently the car during the pandemic just would not start. It was having, the battery was just not holding a charge. And I think Eric replaced it 3 different times.
Oh.
And then he finally was like, I think it might be this aftermarket radio is draining the battery as it's sitting here. Because basically, if I didn't drive it every day, and as soon as we went into the pandemic, I wasn't driving it every day, right? Because I'm sitting at home, I'm working at home, whatever. And 2 days would go by, you go out to start the car, wouldn't start. I'm like, oh no. So yeah, he did eventually fix that because he basically took out the aftermarket radio and had them put back in like the basic Prius radio, and now it works fine. But
Do you not have Sirius then?
I do have Sirius on
Okay,
it.
I'd be like just an AM FM would be
but
real
I listen mostly
challenging.
to audiobooks, so
Oh,
Prius
that's
with
true,
a
that's
cassette
true.
deck.
yeah.
So you might be on the hunt too, right?
I think I'm very close to being on the hunt. I mean, there is a running joke because a couple of years ago, he was like, I really think you could get a Honda CRV. Is that what it is? No, a Honda RAV4. Toyota RAV4?
We're also
You're nailing
savvy
it.
about cars.
I'm like, what the hell
Make
is
sure
a
to
car?
tag all those guys
Yeah.
in this clip.
It's definitely now that I'm saying these all out loud, it's the Toyota RAV4. And I'm like, I don't really want a Toyota RAV4. Not that I have anything against it, but like, I don't know. It feels like a young person's car. And he's like, you're driving this janky Prius. Wouldn't this be better? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, like, I kind of have a Prius vibe. I'm a little bit of a hippie. I don't think I have a
I used to
Toyota.
grow grass in my car. I mean,
know.
grass used to literally grow in my car.
I don't
Not that
think I
kind of
have
grass.
a Toyota RAV4 vibe. So then he bought Sarah a Toyota RAV4.
Yeah, when your previous car before this Prius was nearly exactly the same as a RAV4.
That's true. It was a Toyota Highlander.
There you go.
I couldn't remember what it was.
Well, so you're on the hunt too.
I'm
mean,
very close.
Just to circle back, the car catching on fire. That was Rosemary. Rosie's had crazy car
Oh, yeah.
stories, but this was, she was moving, and so she went someplace to pick up cardboard boxes. Back in the day, it was like there was this place you could go and get them recycled. So she was going to have boxes to be able to move. I think at this point she was either going to Washington. I think it was Washington for college. So she needed all these boxes. So she takes the big van because she had her birthday gift car.
Oh God, that
Granada,
one,
the sick Granada.
Yeah. So yes, quickest story. Dad got her a birthday gift of a car one time when she was having all of her friends over for dinner. I think she might have been a senior in high school. Yeah, because Dad was still alive, so probably a senior in high school. And I remember being upstairs in Mom and Dad's bedroom, and I looked across the street, and I saw this car pull up and see Dad get out of it. And I'm like, oh, uh-oh. And I go downstairs, and Mom walks in the house too, and she's like, we're not going to bring this up before the party. And I'm like, bring up what? And she's like, Rosie's gift. I'm like, oh, because it was
like rust colored,
it was horrendous of a car.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The main thing I remember about it was that the lining of the ceiling had detached and it had kind of draped down and would like skirt across your
It would
head.
sit on top of your head.
I mean, it was really, really bad.
Rosemary has some prime details of whatever food she found left over in
Yeah.
it.
And a dirty diaper. And she
Yeah.
swore she would never drive that car ever. And so it sat across the street, I think, for about 2 weeks until she had to get somewhere. And that was that. But going back, she had the van loading up with big cardboard boxes. She was coming back from somewhere with them, and the car caught fire. And so
She was driving up Winnetka in the San Fernando Valley, and there's a hill. And it's not that big of a hill, but she got to the top of the hill, and the car was like, this is it. I'm done right here. Pulled over, stopped, and the car started to catch on fire on the top of Winnetka.
Oh God.
So she was able to get herself out, but none of the cardboard boxes.
Oh no.
Which was just kindling for this freaking fire. So it was like a very dramatic fire. She called me at what was our family business, the store at the time. And so I have to close the store, and like family emergency sign in the window, and go pick her up. And like you could see this large car on fire, like a block
Wow.
away. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So yes, our family history with cars has been very spotty. And that's why I usually do not keep a car this long, because it's inevitable.
Lessons have been learned.
Yes, but like I said, it's a little bit ahead of my curve. It's 9.5 years old. So, but yeah, I'm now on the car hunt and have to deal with this issue.
I know. I just want to say one last thing about the Prius. It's been very reliable, except for this dumb battery problem, because Eric has had multiple cars that have constant problems,
Yeah.
and yet he is all wanting to get rid of my car. I mean, he's not wrong. It is old, but I don't know. I feel like it's been reliable at least.
I feel like mine has been pretty reliable. And obviously, I was dealing with a warranty a lot of times. So any repair issue I did have was handled. But these last few years, when I've owned the car, yeah, that's been, a little more like, okay, well, this is annoying. Like I'm letting this beep noise on my stereo just last for a year. Like, okay, you know what I'm saying? But I will say that this is just one of those things where now I'm like, okay, I think it's going to have to happen.
Well, it's funny. Ed just saying driving up a hill, in one of the vans, I have such distinct memories of multiple times being either on a freeway or driving through the canyon, and you're literally like almost praying, like, is this car gonna make it? I mean, like we pulled over so many times, and like 15 cars piled up behind us because we're like going so slow up whatever. Oh my gosh.
You're probably the reason why there's a law against that now.
Well, Dad would then purposely get in the big truck lane because they're going like no more than 30 miles, 40 miles on a freeway. Mm-hmm. And so he'd just go like, oh God, I'm stuck in this lane. Whoops. When in actuality, the car could not go any faster than that. So I don't know. So it's been a life lesson of like, all right, got to move on sometimes, close the chapter. So I'll let you know what happens.
I'll be interested to hear. All right. Well, that's it for this episode of Family Dynamics. Thank you for listening. And please follow us on all of our social media at Family Dynamics with a K for Killmonds. And that's it. We'll catch you next time on Family Dynamics.